Morning, and welcome back to my channel. So, 5 years ago, I got divorced. At the time, if someone would have told me that 5 years later, I would still not be remarried, I would have told them that they're crazy. I felt so strongly about my chances of remarrying because when I think of myself, I genuinely see myself as a good man. I see myself as a good partner. I see myself as someone that has good values in life generally. And also, I think physically, I am decent looking. So then, I always thought that surely, surely it wouldn't be that hard for me to find someone. Once you have thought through these 3 points that I just made, the next thing is really to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. It's hard, it's very hard, but it's very important that we're honest with ourselves. And ask yourself the question, right? Which is, how important is it to me to sell this house? How important is it to me to sell this house? How important is it to me to meet someone? And there's no shame in that. I think too often in society we we want to claim that it's not that important. It's not that important. That we'll meet someone when we meet someone. It's fine. We don't really care. We'll do what we have to do. And if that's you, then that's fine. For me personally, it's extremely important. It's extremely important to meet someone, to have a partner. And so, because it is, then I took the time to really assess myself and to really figure out those 3 points and figure out what I can do to sell my house. So then I broke it down into a few steps. And the first step of figuring out my value is is doing an honest assessment of ourselves. Like for a house that you're trying to sell, if you were not able to sell it, the first thing you want to do is do an honest assessment of that house. Or for us, do an honest assessment of yourself. And that assessment, what does that tell you? The main things that we're looking at is, in this house, what are the things that increase the value of this house? And what are the things that decrease the value of this house? That's the first thing. Same for us. On the dating world, in the dating market, what are the things that for me as a man increase my value, that make me more valuable? What are the things that make me less valuable? That's the first step. The second thing is understanding of the things that make me less valuable, which of those things can I change? Because it's not everything that can be changed. For example, in the house, you can't easily change the foundation of the house, even if the foundation is bad. You probably can't change it. You can't move the house to a different place. You probably will not change the roof because the roof is extremely expensive. So again, the exercise is understanding what are the things that increase and decrease value, and then looking at the things of the things that decrease your value, what are the things that you can change amongst those things? And then amongst the things that you can change, you have to make a decision as to which of them do you feel like you want to invest energy into changing and that you could be successful at changing. That's the third thing. Third thing is, which of those things can you change? And that would help increase your value a little more. And in addition to that, the last step is, other than the things that you can change to increase your value, what are the other things that you can add to the positives to make you even more positive? Because ultimately, what matters is your overall value. Ultimately, what matters is your overall value. So, and your overall value is a factor of negatives and the positives. Ultimately, you want your positives to outweigh your negatives. So you're up and you want to just keep rising. And the way that you go up is by either adding and adding and adding positives or by removing negatives. By removing, if we're here and this is your value is the space between these two hands, and this is positive and this is negative. And if you want this space to increase, you have two options. Either you reduce the negatives as much as you can, or you increase the positives. Reduce the negatives or increase the positives. That's it. For a house, for example, you can change a few things. You can fix the lawn. You can clean the driveway because it's dirty and is not very attractive. That's the negative that you can change. Or if the windows are not very good, you can replace the windows. Or a positive that you can add is that you can plant some flowers in the front of the house. That's a positive. Or you could paint the whole house, inside and outside. So those are things that you can do to either increase your value, increase the positives, or reduce the negatives. That's the mindset that you should have when it comes to us as well. The next question then is, what are some of those things that what are some of those factors for us that influence our value? So this is my own personal assessment, right? And just generally, I'll give you some general points, but then you want to do this exercise for yourself. For me, there's some general points that I've recognized as positives and negatives. For a man, for example, right? Some of the things that increase your value are how much money you make. It's a society that we live in. You can fight, you can argue that all you want, but that's just the way it is. How much money you make, your physical appearance, attractiveness, all those things, physically appearance, your values, your profession, your stability overall, things like that. Those things add your value. As a man, what are some of the things that decrease your value is your marital status. If you're divorced, some people see that as a negative. Children, if you have a lot of children, some people see that as a negative. Instability, if your finances are not really all that, if you don't make enough money, if you're kind of broke, that's a negative. Whether we like it or not, it's just a fact. Your temperament, things like that. Those are the way that you behave, the way that you carry yourself, your character. Those things also negatively influences your value. For women, it's the same thing. I would say for women, I'll start with attractiveness. How attractive are you? Physical attractiveness, overall fitness, right? Whether we like to admit it or not, there's a higher standard for physical appearance for women than there is for men. So that's a starting point. And then things like your profession is a positive for women. Your temperament is a positive. How affectionate, how much attention you give, and how you express yourself is a positive. Cooking is a positive. On the other side, so for women, the things that reduce their value generally, and again, this is very general speaking, you have things like physical appearance, um, profession, relationship to money. Yeah, things like that. And I think for each person, it's different. So you have to take time to assess your own self. And I'm happy to. And something that I don't usually tell people. I mean, I've interacted with a lot of women, and usually I will not say certain things out of respect. But I'll be happy to give my opinion on someone's value if they ask me. If you want to be honest about it, I'll be happy to share my opinion, and for other people to share their opinions on my value too. That's fine. For my case, like I said, I learned, you know, a couple years ago that maybe I was overvaluing myself because I looked, and then when I did this exercise for myself, I realized that I had some things, negatives that were impacting me. And some of my negatives at the time were my finances. I went into entrepreneurship 5 years ago and I really depleted my finances and got me in a lot of debt. And, that's a negative because a lot of people, a lot of women that are successful, that are well off, don't want that burden, no matter how good you may be. It's a reality that we have to accept, that I learned to accept. Kids, a lot of people are not comfortable with men that have multiple children. So that's a fact that I have to recognize. Stability. Because I was not doing entrepreneurship in Cameroon, I was traveling back and forth. I was in Cameroon, I was here, I was all over the place. I didn't have a home. I sold my house in the US. Didn't have a home. I was mostly in Cameroon, but even there, I didn't have a home. And I was back and forth. And most people don't want that. Most people want stability. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that stability is probably the most important factor that women consider when trying to build a family with a man. And so, me not being stable financially, geographically, professionally, is was a big negative for me, right? So for me it was either. So then I had to make a decision because getting married was something that was that important for me. What can I do to change that? What can I do to increase my value on the market? So I needed to be more stable, professionally, financially, all that. I needed my finances to get better. I can't do anything about my children, but because my children, I love them, they are where they are, I can't change that. But the things that I can change, then I was intentional about trying to change those things. And I think that's how we should look at this. I think we should be honest about the things that bring us down and then take action to change that. And if we're honest about this, if we can do an honest assessment of our value on the market and do an honest assessment of what influences that value for us, and then we can take action to address our overall value, then at the end of the day, no matter what happens, no matter whether the house gets bought or not, we know, we know that we did the best that we could to try to sell the house, and that whether the house sells or not, we can sleep at night knowing that we couldn't have done things, we couldn't have done any more to help the situation. And the truth is that whether we want to admit to it or not, whether we want to admit to it or not, we all have room to grow. we always have some room to grow. So whether it's for the dating market or it's for our own spouse, even if we're already married, one thing that we should never stop doing, one thing we should never stop doing is doing introspection. We should never stop assessing ourselves. We should never stop assessing our um, weaknesses. We should never stop trying to build more strengths. We should never stop trying to increase our value, not just for the dating market, but also for ourselves and for society and for our children. Because at the end of the day, we should strive to be the best version that we could possibly be. And at the end of our lives, when it's all said and done, we will not be wishing that should have or we could have done more. We will not be regretting the things that we could have done and didn't do, the opportunity that we could have seized that we didn't seize. Instead, we will be at peace. So, what is your value on the market? On that note, until next time. Thank you.